Fired for budget cuts. They forgot I was the only one with access to the 20M Datacenter. Elise Grant. The exact moment I knew I was screwed was when Derek slid a manila folder across the HR table like he was dealing blackjack at a funeral. "We'll easily replace you with someone cheaper," he said, that smug little smirk practically tattooed on his face. I didn't say anything back. Not because I didn't want to. I had a 5-course buffet of sarcasm simmering on my tongue, but my boss Randall was sitting next to him, blinking like a deer about to apologize to a moving truck. I think he muttered something like, "It's not personal," but by then, all I heard was static. White noise. Rage with a dial tone. My ID badge was deactivated before I'd even zipped up my coat. 12 years gone. Just like that. Tossed aside by an HR weasel and a spineless manager. They walked me out like I was contagious. Derek didn't even have the decency to act awkward. Just handed me my cardboard box like I just checked out of aisle 4 and went back to nuking whatever sad lunch he eats at 10:15 a.m. inside the box. The usual 2017 company retreat photo. My caffeine molecule mug, the succulent I kept alive through 2 reorgs and 1 divorce and a flash drive I didn't even remember plugging into my docking station. That one I held onto a little tighter. The lobby smelled like lemon-scented Lysol and broken promises. I didn't cry, not there. My tears come with a union steward and a severance clause. But I did stop outside, staring up at the ugly concrete box I once thought I'd retire in, and I thought Apex Core. My Apex Core. The server vault I built from scratch after they slashed the infrastructure budget and told me to get innovative. So I did. I built a biometric lock system, so secure it made the NSA look casual. And since they didn't want to pay for multi-admin redundancy, I built a failsafe keyed only to me, my voice, my retina, my handprint. I sent 3 emails advising they add a second admin. Crickets. You know what's funny? I used to joke about what would happen if they fired me. I always laughed it off because I was loyal, because I was essential, because I was naive. I know this is where you expect the whole walked off with my head high ending. Nope. I went to my car, chucked the box in the back seat, screamed into my steering wheel like a banshee on Bluetooth, and blasted the AC, even though it was 38 degrees out. And if you're still with me, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Every click, that's one more middle finger to Derek in HR. I'm trying to hit my first 10,000 subscribers without selling my soul or pretending essential oils cure server outages. Every click feels like a middle finger to Derek from HR. And trust me, I've got more stories. They get messier before they get redemptive. Back to the bloodbath. I started driving without purpose autopilot mode. Half a mile down Colfax, I was stuck at a red light watching some teenager TikTok himself into oncoming traffic when the flicker hit. Not hope, just friction. Something snagged. My mind gripped a jagged memory, the biometric access panel in the Apex Core. It took 2 years just to get budget clearance for that system. State-of-the-art triple authentication. One user, me. My voice override. My retinas. My damn palm print. And they never updated it. I know, because I asked 3 times. Each time, Randall gave me the same corporate lullaby, "Let's circle back next quarter." Well, Randall, I hope you're ready to start doing laps around that steel vault. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even mad. I was interested. Interested to see how long it would take before they realized the person they tossed into the parking lot with a $10 cardboard box was also the only one who could get them back into a $20 million infrastructure. I turned off the radio. Silence felt sacred now, like pre-thunder tension, thick with potential. Buzz. Then again, 2 missed calls from a number I knew too well. I didn't answer. Not yet. When I walked into my house, the silence nearly tackled me. No air purifier hum. No dull hum of background Slack messages. No Brian next door typing like a caffeinated squirrel. Just nothing. The house wasn't ready to have me home at 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday. I dropped the box on the kitchen counter. The succulent toppled and spilled dirt like it had finally surrendered. I stared at it for a full minute before whispering, "Yeah, me too, buddy." I didn't unpack. What was I going to do? Nail my Employee of the Quarter plaque over the trash can? I booted up my laptop like a woman teetering 48 hours away from becoming a cautionary LinkedIn post. The job sites greeted me with all the subtlety of a clown with a bullhorn. "Hi, Elise. Ready to find your dream job?" "Sure." Just as soon as I filter out every company that hasn't already replaced me with a 25-year-old named Bryce, who still uses phrases like, "Let's disrupt this vertical," I clicked without thinking. My hands moved, but my mind didn't. Just static. That foggy, numb white noise of being too experienced and too invisible at the same time. Was I too old? Should I dye my hair again? Do I still own that blazer that doesn't make me look like a substitute teacher on trial? My desktop folder glared at me. Career 2.0. I hadn't opened it since 2016. The folder labeled Career 2.0 hadn't been touched since the first Trump presidency. I opened it, closed it, then just stared like the file might shout a curse in Latin and turn me into a cautionary tale. That's when the calls started. First one unknown number, second unknown, third, same thing. Like clockwork every 15 minutes. Someone was spiraling, and they thought I'd toss them a lifeline. I didn't answer a single one. There was no way I was playing unpaid tech support for the same people who discarded me like spoiled yogurt. Instead, I opened a fresh tab and started writing a new resume summary that felt more like an obituary experienced IT architect with over 15 years in secure systems architecture and enterprise-level data recovery. Even typing it made me want to gag. It all read like relics from a past no one cared about anymore. Just as I was rewriting my bullet points for the third time, the fourth call came through. My phone buzzed like it wanted to leap off the table and sprint away. I picked it up, thumb hovering over the red decline button. Then I saw the message. Carla. The only person in accounting with a sense of humor and a working soul. "Hey, weird question, but no one can get into the server room." "At all. Did you change the code before you left?" I blinked, read it again, and again. A slow grin stretched across my face, something between a smirk and a warning shot. I typed a one-word response, "Me." No emoji, no explanation. Just the sharp sting of clarity wrapped in a text bubble. A few seconds passed. No reply. I imagined Carla staring at her screen, then slowly glancing up at the biometric vault door labeled Apex Core, the one that wouldn't open without my palm, my voice, or my retinas. I turned my phone to silent, walked into the kitchen, and poured a glass of red wine big enough to qualify as a serving bowl. Then I sat down on the couch, like a woman watching the second act of a disaster movie she wrote herself. This wasn't grief anymore. Not confusion, not shock. This was anticipation. That delicious tension when you know the villain just tripped the silent alarm and doesn't know it yet. They wanted someone younger, cheaper, easier. Let's see how much Bryce is worth by sunrise. The first voicemail hit around 2:41 p.m., barely 3 hours after I told Carla, nope. I was halfway through a reality show where couples screamed at each other in IKEA when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. If you're still with me, hit that subscribe button not just to support the story, but so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, this was only the opening move. Not unknown this time. They were getting smarter. Or maybe just more desperate. "Hi, this is Bryce. I think you were the last IT administrator. I'm just trying to, get the admin credentials for the Apex Core server vault. Kinda urgent. You might have forgotten to leave them behind, haha." The forced laugh made me pause the TV. It was Bryce. Of course it was. Sounded just like I'd imagined voice cracking under the weight of his own overconfidence. Probably had a failed crypto startup, still calls himself a tech visionary because he once installed Linux on his mom's laptop. I didn't even finish the voicemail right away. Let it marinate while I topped off my wine. Let it breathe. By the time I was settled back on the couch, second glass in hand, the next one came through. 3:12 p.m. "Hey, Elise, it's Bryce again. Just following up. Still waiting on those credentials." We're kind of locked out over here. It's getting a little weird. Could you maybe call me back? A little weird, sweetheart. You're standing in front of a $1 million coffin that only recognizes my hand. Weird doesn't even scratch the prologue. 4:20 p.m. I'm gonna need those credentials, like ASAP. I don't think you realize the position you're putting everyone in right now. This is affecting operations. And there it was. The shift. Panic creeping in like a cold draft under a locked door. I pictured him still in his new hire lanyard, pit stains blooming like storm clouds across his dress shirt. Maybe tapping the glass, desperate, watching the biometric panel blink red. A silent sentinel. Unmoved. Unimpressed. Welcome to the machine, Bryce. 5:03 p.m. Voice trembling now. Look, I know we didn't get off on the best foot, but this is serious. I've got people breathing down my neck. I need access to the server room. Someone does. Please. Can't you just help out? I played that one twice. Not because I needed to, because I enjoyed it. There was something magical about the way he said, please, like it physically hurt him to ask. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a flicker. That part of me, the fixer, the savior, died somewhere between Derek's smug dismissal and the security gate rejecting my badge like expired yogurt. 6:47 p.m. Hi, Elise. Bryce again. I don't know what to do. The CTO's here. He's not happy. I told them you might have had a reason. Maybe they didn't treat you right. But could you please help us? Even just temporarily, I closed my eyes and pictured him on the hallway floor outside Apex Core, arms wrapped around his knees like a toddler in timeout. The executive team pacing like agitated zoo animals behind him. And me? I just took another slow sip of wine. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was education. Bryce curled up outside the server room like a human paperclip, knees pulled to his chest, rocking slightly as the executive team prowled behind him like caged tigers. The air smelled like burnt pizza from the break room microwave, probably left running too long between panicked strategy calls. I imagined the click, click, click of someone's heels pacing by for the 5th time. This wasn't just desperation anymore. This was penance. I didn't respond. Not yet. The longer I stayed quiet, the higher the price of their apology climbed. At 7:34 p.m., the call came. Randall. His name lit up my phone like a mosquito in a bug zapper, glowing, twitching, doomed. I hadn't heard from him directly since the day he sat like a sad ventriloquist dummy in HR, nodding along while Derek served me my career in a manila folder. Seeing his name now, I didn't feel dread. I felt entertained, like watching a slow-motion car crash from the comfort of a rooftop patio with central air. I let it ring, let him sweat. 15 minutes later, he called again. This time, I picked up. Elise, glad. I caught you, he said, chipper and too fast. That same phony tone he used when trying to pivot out of forgetting meeting agendas. That was all I gave him. Let him dangle. I just wanted to check in. No hard feelings, right? I always thought you were a valuable part of the team. I said nothing. The silence stretched so long I could hear the hum of HVAC on his end. I wondered, was he pacing outside Apex Core right now, sweating through his business casual while Bryce hyperventilated nearby? So anyway, he stammered, we're hitting a little hiccup. Nothing major, but Bryce, he's having some trouble accessing the core system. A hiccup. Cute word for a $20 million lockdown. You mean Apex Core? I asked, calm as a closed vault. A pause. Just one breath too long. Right. Yes. Apex Core. Look, we were hoping you could step in. Be the bigger person. Help us resolve this professionally. There's no need to escalate things. Ah, there it was. The pivot. Buddy-buddy to veiled threat in under 30 seconds. Classic Randall. Elise, he added, voice tightening. You're aware you still have professional obligations. Legal ones. Withholding access credentials could be seen as sabotage. I let him stew in his little legal fantasy. Then calmly, I took a sip of wine and said, Randall, do you remember the Q3 security audit I sent you? Silence. The one where I explained the single point of failure in the biometric system. The one where I begged you to approve a redundant admin account just in case I got hit by a bus. Or, I don't know, was fired without warning. I could almost hear Randall's Adam's apple bob in panic. The one, I continued, my voice still smooth as silk, that you personally signed off on ignoring because it would have cost the company $800 for a secondary license. The same $800 that could have avoided all of this. He finally inhaled shallow, sharp, like a man realizing he just walked into a lion's den wearing pork chops as shoulder pads. I didn't wait for excuses. Didn't need them. I tapped the red button and ended the call. The silence that followed. It felt like a standing ovation. I leaned back into the couch, letting the adrenaline buzz fade under my ribs. This wasn't rage anymore. This wasn't heartbreak. This was something pure, clean, electric, earned. Power. Not gifted, not granted, claimed. I opened our old Slack group, still named Control All Delinquents. We started it during peak pandemic Zoom fatigue, when everyone pretended Randall had a clue while secretly trading memes and mental survival tactics. It had gone mostly quiet in recent months. Promotions, layoffs, and 2 slow-motion resignations had chipped away at the crew. But now, it lit up like Christmas in a meth lab. I posted first Elise So. Anyone camping outside Apex Core tonight? Or just Bryce 3? Seconds later, message explosion. Raj Ops. Oh, it's chaos. Full Zoom mode. Jess Facilities Girl. 16 pizzas. Just arrived on the 4th floor. Execs are eating on the floor like it's a disaster movie. Tina accounting losses are at $2.3 million an hour. Finance pulled 2 whole teams off-site to figure out what the human element means. Raj Bryce tried to trick the scanner using a voice mod to sound like you. Deep fake tech. Jess' scanner didn't even blink. Tina Chad tried yelling executive override like he was on Star Trek. The door beeped once and shut tighter. I sipped my wine like I was watching Game of Thrones, except the dragons had MBAs and the White Walkers worked in procurement. Apparently, Bryce spent most of the night pacing outside Apex Core like a kid locked out of his own birthday party. Someone brought him a folding chair. Someone else, probably Chad, blamed the cleaning crew. Randall, according to Raj, spent the afternoon in the break room pretending to coordinate with legal while shoveling trail mix into his mouth like it was his final meal before exile. Then, Jess dropped the photo. Grainy, slightly crooked, snapped on the sly. 10 executives. Real adults, in suits, slumped against the tiled corridor walls outside the server room. Shoes off, ties loose, eating cold pepperoni pizza off paper plates like survivors of a post-apocalyptic tech collapse. I stared at the photo and just smiled. Jess, they've been camped here since 10 a.m. Word is they're bringing in external consultants tomorrow. Bryce's eye has a twitch now. I stared at the photo she'd sent, not in awe, not in joy. It was something deeper. Leverage. This wasn't just funny anymore. They weren't calling because they couldn't fix it. They were calling because they never planned for the possibility that I might leave. I had become part of the furniture stable, reliable, invisible. But now, they were sleeping on tile floors and hemorrhaging millions because wallpaper doesn't usually walk out and take the master key with it. The power had shifted, so I started planning. Not revenge that was already running on autopilot. No, I started working on terms. Real ones, costly ones, public ones. If they wanted access, they weren't just going to ask. They were going to pay. In dollars, sure, but also in humiliation, submission, and acknowledgement. If I'd been invisible to them before they were about to discover just how expensive it was to ignore the woman holding the keys to their kingdom. At 8:12 a.m., the cavalry arrived. Raj, Elise, you won't believe it. They brought in the suits, black badges, external ops. I think they're from Argonne Tech. One guy has a goatee and fingerless gloves. Fingerless gloves! That was the vibe now. I set my coffee down and refreshed the Slack thread like a day trader watching a market crash. Jess, one of them, has an actual briefcase. Not a laptop bag, a real hard-sided briefcase. Tina. They've got thermal scanners toolkits. It's mission impossible over here. Raj, one guy, just asked if the door listens for acoustic anomalies. What even is that? I already knew. Because while Randall and Derek were busy slashing budgets and high-fiving over PowerPoint slogans, I was spending my evenings imagining this exact moment when some overpaid contractor team would try to outsmart a paranoid, exhausted woman with a grudge and a decade of burnout. They never asked how Apex Core worked, only how to bypass it. What they didn't know? The primary lock wasn't just biometric. It was temperamental, custom firmware, encrypted handshake. And my personal favorite, a tamper trigger hardwired into the voltage regulator behind the access panel. Translation: try to brute force it with anything more aggressive than a cotton swab, and the door gets pissed. At 9:31 a.m., I got the update. Raj? Oh my God, they drilled it. And just like that, they went from locked out to completely screwed. Jess, I heard a spark, then the lights on the panel just died. Tina Bryce just threw up in the hallway. The failsafe I built wasn't flashy. It didn't trigger smoke alarms or fry the entire building like something from a Bond film. It was smarter than that. Subtle, precise, devastating. A localized electromagnetic pulse that fried the internal controller, scorched the ID bus, and wiped all local access logs. Gone. Every credential, every token, every emergency override. They hadn't just locked themselves out. They'd broken the keyhole. Jess, the consultants are freaking. One of them just asked if anyone in the org can still decrypt the logs. Raj Bryce raised his hand. They ignored him. Tina Randall is pacing like a divorced dad at a Chuck E. Cheese. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my coffee. Not out of cruelty. Okay, partly out of cruelty, but mostly because I told them this would happen. Every audit, every warning, every email. They gambled my expertise against an $800 license they didn't want to approve. Now, they were pricing out full hardware replacements, downtime stretching into the days, entire client networks suspended. The server room wasn't just offline. It was neutered, and the hallway outside Apex Core. That was their new office. The new command center. Still no call from them, which was fine, because when they finally did, they weren't getting Elise the employee. They'd be hiring Elise the contractor. And I was about to be the most expensive mistake they'd ever made. The call came at 11:04 a.m., 2 days after they tried to replace me with someone cheaper. Not from Derek, bless his petty little heart. Not from Randall, who by now had probably broken out in a full-body rash. No, this one came from her. Janine Carlson, Chief Operating Officer, the one who usually only spoke at town halls to thank everyone for embracing scalability. I'd only ever seen her from a distance, clicking across the stage in heels that cost more than my monthly rent, speaking like someone uploaded her personality into a corporate template. Now, her voice cracked through the phone, brittle and nervous, like porcelain right before it shatters. Elise, thank you for picking up. I didn't speak. Let her work for it. Let her sweat in that silence. I want to begin by acknowledging that this situation has escalated beyond our expectations. We now fully recognize your unique role in our infrastructure strategy. Unique, like I was a seasonal flavor at a failing soda company. We're prepared to reinstate your previous position with a significant raise, retroactive benefits, full title bump. Her voice broke slightly on the word significant. I swirled my tea, let her drown in her own silence. And also, Janine added with a tight breath, we're prepared to issue a company-wide internal memo acknowledging your contributions to the Apex Core infrastructure. There it was, the closest thing to a corporate, I'm sorry she could legally cough out. I let the silence stretch until it got personal. Then I said, no, a full beat. Confused inhale on her end. I'm sorry I'm not interested in rejoining your organization. I'm not your employee anymore, Janine. I'm a consultant now. Her breath snagged, caught between disbelief and budgeting panic. My rate is $200,000 for a 4-hour engagement, wired in advance. She made a choking sound, tried to disguise it as a cough. Elise, that's highly irregular. Not for a firm bleeding millions an hour because it forgot who built the kingdom. She tried to pivot. There are still protocols, legal reviews, procurement. There are no more steps, I said, voice flat. There's the wire or the downtime continues. Another long pause. And you'll guarantee access is restored? I'll give access. I'll rebuild the interface if I have to. But there are also non-financial conditions. She exhaled like it physically hurt. Of course. What are they? 1. Bryce stands in front of the entire IT department and reads a written apology. I want it recorded. I want it posted in internal Slack minimum. Okay? 2. Randall does the same at the next all-hands meeting. Live. Both are doable. Anything else? 3. My name goes on the Apex core design as the primary architect. Retroactively. Documented, signed, understood. And 4. Don't speak to me again unless it's attached to an invoice. I heard her inhale again like she had something else to say, but the words collapsed before they could escape. We'll have the funds wired within the hour. Good. I'll send banking details. I didn't gloat, didn't smile, just ended the call. It wasn't over yet, but now they knew who was writing the ending. I showed up the next morning at 9:30 a.m., sharp, not out of politeness. Out of pure theatrical timing, the $200,000 had cleared. 4 hours of my time now, worth more than my last 11 months combined. The receptionist, fresh out of college, probably looked up at me like she'd seen a ghost wearing last season's blazer. Her hand hovered over the desk phone, like she couldn't decide whether to call security or take notes. I didn't stop. My heels echoed across the tile like war drums in a marble cathedral, past cubicles filled with wide eyes and half-sipped coffee. The whisper network lit up like a switchboard. Heads turned, spines straightened. The queen had returned, and this time they were paying tribute. Someone actually stood up and clapped before a manager barked them back into their seat. I kept walking straight through the glass doors of the executive wing. And there they were. The Rogues Gallery. Derek, pale and sweating, his eyes darting like a stunned possum caught in an overhead projector beam. Randall sitting a mistake, already 1 foot bouncing like it was trying to escape the room before he could. Janine stationed by the corner window, arms crossed, trying to wear authority like armor. Her blouse was wrinkled. Her confidence worse. Not one of them spoke. Not at first. Derek opened his mouth. I raised a hand. He shut it like someone had yanked his plug. I walked right past them across the polished floor that used to squeak under my sneakers when I stayed late, fixing back-end disasters they never understood. To Apex Core. The consultant's equipment was still scattered like crime scene tools, tripods, scopes, tools. Scorch marks spiderwebbed the wall. The panel reeked faintly of ozone and failure. They hadn't found the second panel. Of course not. It was hidden behind a thermal false front I built one weekend they never bothered to log hours for. I knelt down, pressed my palm to the cold casing, and slid the shield aside. There it was. My insurance policy. I activated the hidden Bluetooth sync on my phone. Retinal scan, voice match, thumbprint. The system recognized me in 4 seconds flat. The reboot took 90. During that minute and a half, no one said a word. No one even breathed. The lights flickered. A soft chime. The status bar crawled slowly across the screen. Then click. A mechanical sigh. Clean. Precise. The sound of redemption. The massive steel door to Apex Core unlocked. It swung open with elegance, releasing air like it had been holding its breath through days of incompetence. I stood, turned, faced Janine, who had stepped forward, arms still crossed, but her eyes. Her eyes were saying, "Thank you," in every language regret speaks. My 4 hours are up. I didn't wait for a response. No handshake, no exit statement, no forced gratitude. I walked past the brittle silence, past the screens that once hummed under my care, past the very people who thought legacy could be replaced with a line item. No nod, no glance, just the door hissing closed behind me. Let them figure out the rest. They bought 4 hours, not forgiveness, not peace of mind, just the opening chapter of a reckoning. And I hope every bite of cold pizza reminds them who built their empire and what it costs to forget her. If you've ever poured your heart into a job only to be tossed aside like you were nothing, I see you. This story isn't just mine. It's for everyone who's been underestimated, overlooked, or labeled too expensive after building the very system others now panic over. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you would have done in my place, or share your own battle scars. Let's support each other. And here's my advice. Never let them mistake your silence for weakness. Protect your value. Document everything. Build quietly, but never forget who you are. Because when the day comes, so will your moment.